In the Mafia, enemies are expected, but the real danger always comes from the people sitting closest to you, the ones who share your table, your secrets, your victories, the ones you'd swear would die before they ever betray you. But inside every crime family, there is a moment when loyalty starts to crack, a moment when a brother becomes a rival, when fear becomes poison, and when the person you trust the most begins to imagine a world without you in it. Betrayal in the Mafia never arrives with a warning. It hides behind smiles, behind shared memories, behind years of calling someone family, and when it finally strikes, it strikes with a force no enemy could ever match. This is the story of how a single doubt can turn loyalty into jealousy, how jealousy can turn into fear, and how fear can end with a man pointing a gun at the person he once called his own blood. In the world of the Mafia, loyalty is supposed to be everything. Men swear oaths, make promises, and call each other brothers. They say once you enter, you never turn your back. But inside those shadows, loyalty is often only a mask. Behind the handshakes, the shared dinners, betrayal quietly grows. It starts small, like a whisper in a crowded room, and ends like a gunshot no one sees coming. This is the story of how betrayal rises inside a Mafia family, how a single act of disloyalty can destroy everything built over decades, and how the people who smile the closest can sometimes be the ones holding the knife. In one of the old Mafia families of the East Coast, there were two men who grew up like brothers. Their names were Marco and Rocco. They weren't related by blood, but everyone believed they might as well have been. They lived on the same street, went to the same school, and joined the same crew when they were just teenagers. As they grew older, they became trusted soldiers for the family. One controlled the money, the other controlled the streets. Together, they built a reputation for being unstoppable. Wherever Marco went, Rocco followed. Wherever Rocco made a move, Marco was already watching his back. But the Mafia is a place where power never stays still. As the years passed, opportunities appeared, expansion was coming, new rackets, new businesses, new territories outside the city. The boss was looking for someone to promote, someone to bring into the inner circle. People believed it would be Marco or Rocco, but the truth was, it was only going to be one of them. And this is where the first seeds of betrayal began to grow. Marco had always been the calmer one. He understood numbers, negotiations, diplomacy. The boss liked him because he never acted out of anger. Rocco, on the other hand, was a man of action. He handled problems quickly, sometimes too quickly. He was respected for his strength but feared for his unpredictability. Deep down, Rocco believed he deserved the promotion. He thought he had done more, fought more, and risked more. He told himself that Marco would support him because that's what brothers did. But the moment he realized Marco was being considered as well, fear and jealousy began to twist inside him. One night, the boss called both of them in. He told them there was an upcoming deal with an outside group, and he wanted Marco to handle the talks. Rocco felt the sting immediately. For the first time in his life, he felt like he was standing behind Marco instead of beside him. That night, he didn't sleep. He kept thinking about how everything he worked for was being handed to someone else. Someone he loved, but someone he also secretly feared losing too. Rocco's paranoia grew. He started watching Marco more closely. When Marco met with the boss, Rocco wondered what they talked about. When Marco received calls late at night, Rocco imagined they were about promotions or plans that didn't include him. And slowly, he began to see betrayal where there was none. But the mind is powerful, and once distress begins, it builds its own stories. At the same time, there were others in the family who saw an opportunity. A jealous crew member named Vito noticed Rocco's insecurity. He whispered into Rocco's ear, hinting that Marco was planning to take everything for himself. He told Rocco that Marco was turning the boss against him. He claimed Marco wanted full control of the new territories. Vito had no proof. He just wanted the two strongest men in the family to turn on each other so he could climb up quietly. And it worked. Rocco confronted Marco one evening. He asked him directly if he wanted the position. Marco didn't lie. He said yes. He said if the boss trusted him for the job, he would take it. He didn't understand why Rocco was upset. He believed they would still work together. But Rocco didn't hear trust in Marco's voice. He only heard competition. And competition was something he had never felt with Marco before. After that, every interaction between them changed. The laughs were shorter, the conversations were colder. Marco didn't realize how serious the issue had become, but Rocco was already drowning in suspicion. And when a man in the Mafia starts to lose trust, he becomes dangerous. The final break happened when the boss announced a meeting with the higher-ups to finalize the promotion. Marco had been chosen. It wasn't official yet, but everyone in the room could feel it. Rocco felt his entire future collapsing. He felt like the world he built with his own hands was being handed to someone else. And in that moment, The betrayal he feared from Marco transformed into a betrayal he was ready to commit. Vito pushed him even further. He convinced Rocco that if Marco became part of the inner circle, Rocco would eventually be pushed out, or maybe even eliminated. In the Mafia, being overlooked can be as dangerous as being targeted, and Rocco believed him. He convinced himself he had no choice, so he made his decision. Rocco went to a rival group. He told them information about the upcoming deal Marco was supposed to handle. He believed if the deal failed, the boss would blame Marco, and the promotion would collapse. Rocco didn't think about the consequences. He didn't think about loyalty. He only thought about survival. He only thought about winning. But deals with rivals rarely go smoothly. Instead of simply ruining Marco, the rival group planned an attack. They wanted to weaken the entire family and take over some of their business. Rocco didn't realize how badly things could go wrong until it was too late. The night of the meeting, Marco walked into a warehouse expecting negotiations. Instead, he walked into an ambush. Gunfire erupted. 2 of his men were hit instantly. Marco barely made it out alive. When the news reached the boss, the family fell into chaos. Everyone wanted to know who leaked the information. How did the rivals know about the meeting? Who gave them the location? It didn't take long before suspicion fell on Rocco. People had seen him talking to the wrong people. They noticed his distance from Marco, and when the boss called him in for questioning, Rocco's hands shook. He couldn't even look Marco in the eyes. Marco, despite barely surviving, still believed Rocco wouldn't betray him. But the boss knew better. He had seen betrayal before. He had seen how envy could turn men into enemies, and he ordered an investigation. When the truth came out, Rocco broke down. He tried to explain it was fear, not hatred. He said he never wanted Marco killed. He only wanted to stop him from leaving him behind. But betrayal has no soft version. In the Mafia, betrayal is betrayal, no matter the reason, and the punishment is always the same. The boss gave Marco the final decision. That was the cruelest part of it all. Marco, who grew up with Rocco, who called him a brother, now had to decide whether his friend lived or died. The weight of that choice crushed him, but Marco knew the rules. If he spared Rocco, the family would see it as weakness, and weakness invites more betrayal. So Marco gave the order. Rocco was taken to a quiet place at the edge of the city, the same streets they used to walk together, the same roads they once dreamed on, and there, Rocco met the fate he created with his own hands. After that day, Marco changed. The promotion felt hollow, the power felt cold. He had everything he wanted, yet he lost the one person he trusted most. The family continued to grow, but Marco carried the weight of that betrayal for the rest of his life. And that is how betrayal grows inside the Mafia, not with strangers, not with enemies, but with people who once shared the same table, the same dreams, and the same blood oath. Betrayal doesn't happen in a moment. It builds slowly, quietly, and painfully, until it finally destroys everything in its path. In the end, Marco understood something he had never questioned before. In the Mafia, power isn't won by strength, or money, or the number of men standing behind you. It's won by sacrifice. And sometimes, that sacrifice is the person you believe would walk beside you for life. The streets eventually returned to normal. Deals continued, money flowed, and Marco earned the authority he once quietly dreamed of. But the emptiness inside him never faded. He would sit at the head of the table, surrounded by men who feared him, and still feel the missing presence of the one man who never needed fear to stay loyal. People whispered about the betrayal. Some blamed Rocco, some blamed Marco, but deep down, Marco knew the truth was far more painful. The Mafia doesn't destroy men with violence, it destroys them with choices. Choices that carve scars no one else can see. Years later, Marco would still visit the edge of the city where everything ended. He never said a word there. He just stood, listening to the wind, remembering the laughter, the fights, the dreams they once had. That place reminded him that betrayal in the Mafia doesn't end with the shot fired. It lives on in every quiet night, every unfinished memory, every moment when he wonders if things could have been different. And that's the final lesson carved into the life of every man who enters this world. In the Mafia, blood makes you part of the family, but betrayal decides how your story ends.